Good morning and welcome to my deck. As you can see, I'm not in my garage and I'm not on my bike as a result of this injury I sustained here last Saturday. So I'll give you a bit of a rundown of what happened and a few of the mistakes that I made to get myself into this situation right after this. Alright, welcome back. As I said before, I sustained an injury last Saturday and I made a few mistakes along the way, but I think I need to set up the situation so that you understand how I got into that predicament. Anyway, last Saturday I was doing some repairs on my motorcycle and it was getting mid-afternoon, so about 3 o'clock I was finished. I had to be home by 5 so I could meet my wife, and we had plans that night. So I had no intention of going out for a ride, but being anxious, I wanted to check out and see if that repair I made actually did the trick. So about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I jumped on my 250L with some of my gear, not all of my gear, because I had no intentions of going out for a ride. So as I was going out, I didn't tell anybody I was leaving, so nobody knew where I was going. So that's mistake number one. Always tell somebody that you're leaving and about the proximate area you're going to be riding, so that if you run into trouble like I did, they know where to come and get you. At any rate, I put on some of my gear, I jumped on my bike and I headed out kind of northwest of my city to on my usual route I take along some gravel roads. And as I get to the corner where I generally turn east, there is a road that is unmaintained and it runs straight for about 2 miles. I've never taken this road before and I don't know why I chose to take this road this time, but I did. So it's totally unmaintained, it's full of holes, it's got ruts, it has water, it has long grass, and it is impassable by vehicles. Why I took it, I don't know. No explanation there. Anyway, as I'm riding, I get about halfway and it's a lot of fun, a lot of ruts, a lot of water, a lot of mud. Perfect for the 250L. I looked at my clock and I saw that I was running a little bit behind, so instead of taking my time like I should have been, I started to push it a little bit and my front tire hit a rock. The bike went right, I went left, and as you can see, I fell down. So that's mistake number 2. Number 2 is wear 100% of your gear 100% of the time. I'm convinced myself that when I fell, if I would have been wearing all of my gear, I wouldn't have sustained this injury. Anyway, as it turns out, it kind of leads into mistake number 3 that I made, which is if you don't have the right amount of time to go on the ride, you shouldn't go. If you push yourself, you make mistakes and you run into problems exactly like I did. So, hit the rock, bike goes this way, I go that way, and because I was riding in the left-hand rut, when I fell to the right, my shoulder hit against the edge of the rut and it was a dead stop. So here I am, lying in the grass, sore shoulder. I know I'm injured, but I don't want to know exactly what it is. I haven't told anybody I'm leaving on a motorcycle ride, therefore nobody knows where I am. I'm traveling on a road that is impassable by cars, so I can't rely on any vehicles coming by. And here I'm injured and I don't know what's wrong. So as I'm lying in the grass, I'm kind of going over the situation in my head as to what my next course of action could be. So I knew nobody was going to come and by, and I knew nobody was going to come by and help me. So I had to help myself. So I have 2 choices. Choice number 1 is lift up my bike and ride my bike out, or choice number 2 is leave my bike and walk out. So I still had about another mile to get to the main road where there was traffic. So luckily I grabbed my cell phone on my way out the door, and I had that with me, so that was totally my savior. So I checked myself over, starting with my toes, and I could move my feet, I could move and wiggle my fingers. My left arm was fine, my back seemed to be good, my neck was alright, but I knew there was a problem. So I reached up with my hand and I grabbed my shoulder, my collarbone. I knew that that wasn't broke, so I went a little further, and I could feel that my shoulder didn't feel quite right, and I was assuming that it was a dislocation. So not the end of the world, but thinking about it, because of my situation where I was, if I would have had a worse injury, I would have been in some serious trouble, because nobody would have come along and nobody would have been able to find me. So I would have had to phone and get probably a helicopter lift out of there. At any rate, I stand up, and my arm was dangling and it was in a whole lot of pain. So while I was still on some adrenaline, I managed to pick up my bike, threw out my kickstand, and picked up my bike. So then I contemplated whether or not I was going to ride my bike out. So I tried to lift my arm up, and I knew I couldn't, so there was no way I was going to ride out. So my next option was to walk out. So I phoned my wife, because she was at work. It's 4:30 now, and she wouldn't probably not be able to answer her phone, which she wasn't. So I did leave a message, asked her to call me right back. So where the town I was riding near, I do have a buddy that lived in that town, so I gave him a call, and he was home and he did pick up. So he knew kind of where I was, but he didn't know exactly where I was. So I gave him a few landmarks. Then he realized that I was west of his town. So he did know the road I was on, and he knew that was totally impassable. So I would have to walk out and meet him. So I tried to take off my helmet. I couldn't do that. So here it is, 25 degrees out. I've got my jacket with my liner and my helmet on, tall motocross boots, and I'm walking a mile. So you can imagine that was the easiest thing for me to do, but it was my only option. So I start walking, and about 20 minutes in, I get a call from my wife, and she's panicking, wondering what happened. So I did explain to her what happened, and that my buddy was going to come and grab me and take me off to emergency. So she was going to meet me there. So after 20 minutes, I get a call from my buddy as well, letting me know that he was on the corner where I was going to walk out and meet him, but he still couldn't see me. I was at the bottom of the valley. There's lots of hills on this road, so I was just walking up and cresting the hill, and he saw the top of my helmet, so he started walking towards me as well. So after 10 minutes, he met me on the road. First thing I asked was if he had any water, which he didn't, and then please take off my helmet. So he took my helmet off, and that was a little bit of relief from the heat anyway. So we walked out through the tall grass, through some mud, and we got to where his vehicle was. I had left my bike, so he knew where it was, so he was going to come back and grab it later. Off we go to emergency, which was about a 20-minute ride, and the rest of the story is I get in, the doctor managed to get my shoulder back in place. It was dislocated. They did take an x-ray, and my humerus also is fractured, so that wasn't definitely any good news that I wanted to hear right now. So as a recap, do not make the same mistakes I made, because your season for riding is short, and if you sustain an injury like I did, it'll be even shorter. So number one, always tell somebody that you're going for a ride, and number two, always tell them kind of the idea or the area of where you're going to be riding. Number three, wear your gear 100% of the time. If I would have been wearing my proper protective gear, I would not have gotten this injury. Number 4, take your time. If you have to push yourself, then it's no fun for you and it's dangerous. So in this case, I pushed myself and I wound up in trouble. And bonus mistake, if you're going to explore a new area or a new road, don't ever go alone. Always take someone with you, because when you do wind up in trouble, and you probably will, you'll have someone there to help you out of it. Anyway, that's my story. If you've gotten anything out of this, please heed my mistakes and my advice. Share it with that guy that also is taking chances, because even if this video will save one person from getting injured or making a mistake, their time will definitely be worth watching. Anyway, if you have any comments, please leave them below. If you've made a mistake, or if you can add to some of the mistakes that I made, please let me know and I'll certainly get back to you. Until then, please ride safe and don't get into trouble like I did.